Oh, tonight's shir is Schus Refuah Shlema, Shlomo Yosef Betzal Ben Rus. Everyone should take a look. How are you? Take a look at the email that was sent out earlier today. It's literally Hatzalas Nefashos that people can be involved in. If people should avail themselves if they can. The Gemara says that the Gemara is talking about Ibra Hashana. Last week we talked about Rosh Chodesh, Kiddush HaChodesh, and now we're going to jump to the next Gemara, which is Ibra Hashana, brand new Gemara. So the Gemara says Ibra Hashana. Let's go back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, right, we're about to get to the last two dots of the first part of the Mishnah. Ibra Chodesh B'Shlosha. Okay, that was, we analyzed last week. Why is it called Ibra Chodesh? Ibra Hashana. This is 3 lines from where the lines get wide in the Mishnah. Ibra Hashana B'Shlosha. To make in a leap year, you need 3 dayanim. Divrei Rebbe Meir. Reb Shimon Gamliel B'Shlosha Maschilin. Reb Shimon Gamliel says no. With 3 you begin. Wow, we never had an animal like this. Ubechamisha Nosim and Nosnin. V'Gomrim B'Shiva. Is like different stages to Ibra Hashana. And then what does it go? Vim Gomer Begimel Mu'beres. And if you finished with 3, it still is in a leap year. Yeah, it's Chal. So says the Gemara on Yudam Beis, Tanya Ketzad Amar Rab Shimon Gamliel B'Shlosha Maschilin Ubechamisha Noisim and Noisnin V'Gomer B'Shiva. What's the case? You begin with 3 dayanim. Then you continue and add 2 more, and then you finish off with 7. So how does that happen? Well, what's the process? Says the Gemara as follows: Echad omer leishev, ve'echad v'shnayim omrim shelo leishev. If one of the 3 dayanim says, "I think that there's good cause," we have a meeting and we say they think there's good cause for an Ibra Hashana to add an extra Adar this year. Now, what that cause would be? That's what we're going to have to learn in Mirz Hashem in the further sugyas. What's going on with the agriculture? What's going on with the drachim, with the highways, with the snow? That's a lot of stuff we have to discuss, and how that is taken into account, and what plays heavy. What's a heavy duty decision? What's not? What holds water? What doesn't? Fine. If 2 say not to, so batal yachid b'miyuto. So the guy, the singular one, is totally ignored. And we follow the majority, and we don't continue the process. Shnayim omrim leishev, ve'echad omer shelo leishev. But what happens if 2 says to sit and to continue and to have a shana mu'beres, to be mechashev? Maybe we should make an leap year. Ve'echad omer shelo leishev. So what do? We don't finish it right there. Mosifan alein od shnayim, v'nosnin v'nosim b'davar. So we add 2 more, and then we begin the masu matan. Which means the 3 bezdin, the bezdin of 3, that's just, you think there's cause over here? You think that what's going on is really a valid reason to even talk for a second about the concept of Ibra Hashana? And if 2, the majority wins, and 1 doesn't, so then you continue, and you have 5, a masu matan with 5. Ask if you look in the Rambam in Kiddush HaChodesh, on the side of the Rambam, it's not the Kesef Mishnah, the Radbaz, and the Lechem Mishnah, the usual commentaries on the side. It's called the Mefarish. The Mefarish is the one who was a commentary on the Rambam on the side of the Kiddush HaChodesh. So yes, why is it that when it comes to not following and not having Ibra Hashana, it's fine to follow the 2 majority, and when it comes to having an Ibra Hashana, it's suddenly not okay to follow the 2 majority. Manavshach. Either you follow 2 against 1, the majority of 2 against 1 by Ibra Hashana, or you don't follow 2 against 1 by the Ibra Hashana. Well, how do you have your cake and eat it too? So it says the Mefarish, the Maretz Chias quotes it in the back of this Gemara, in the boxes in the back. So the Maretz Chias says, he says the following idea from the Mefarish, he quotes. He says, when you're changing the year from its chazakah, what's the chazakah? It's a regular year. We shouldn't have 13 months. So now we want to discuss, and we want to start the process of changing the year from its normal status, from its regular chazakah. So says the Maretz Chias, then you need a majority of 2. It's not enough to have a majority of 1. Why would you need a majority of 2? Because you're now making a din Torah that has now ramifications for what? For dinei nefashos. And by dinei nefashos, the Gemara tells us you always need a majority of 2. How do you have ramifications for dinei nefashos? Well, if I add an extra month, so then I can actually save a child that's going to be Machal Shabbos from Misa. I can now discuss different things that are going to have ramifications in the world of dinei nefashos. So that's the Maretz Chayis is that's the Mefarish's pshat on why you need more dayanim, because it wouldn't be sufficient when you're changing the year from his status. It's a little bit of a wild pshat. I mean, that's called dinei nefashos. That's the most indirect dinei nefashos I've ever heard in my life. That's what's, and also the fact that you now need a rove of 2. It's also not clear. Theoretically, if I would be able to have a dinei nefashos without 23 dayanim, and I would have a dinei nefashos case of 3 dayanim. What does that mean theoretically? How could I ever have dinei nefashos of 3 dayanim? Well, malchus b'makom misa omedes. According to some Tanoim, we hold that malchus is, even according to the Rambam, is b'makom misa omedes, even though you only have 3 dayanim. Ask the Minchas Chinuch, says, how could the Rambam say with a straight face that malchus is b'makom misa omedes? Malchus is like killing a person, and yet you don't have a majority of 2 when you follow the 2 dayanim against the 1 dayan for the dinei malchios. Says the Minchas Chinuch, a fascinating chiddush. It's not that you need a majority of 2 by dinei nefashos. It's that you need a recognizable rov. You can't just have 1. You need what's called a ruba de minkar. You need to have a recognizable rov, something that's a significant rov. So says the Minchas Chinuch, really 2/3 is a significant rov. It's a better proportion than you have when you have 23 dayanim and you only have 1 left, so therefore you need 2. But if you have 2 out of 3, says the Minchas Chinuch, you're fulfilling the halacha of achrei rabim lahatos velo achrei rabim leros, that you need 2 leros for the negative outcome when it comes to dinei nefashos. If that Minchas Chinuch is right, that all you need is really 2/3 and it's about the proportion, so that's also against this Mefarish. This Mefarish is holding that it wouldn't be sufficient to have 2/3, but rather you need specifically 2, but that Minchas Chinuch would be against this pshat in the Mefarish, in what the Mefarish said. So let's go on in the Gemara. So what happens? We add to 5. Mosifan olei and od shnayim v'nosim b'davar. Shnayim omer tzricha v'shlu. Where do we get up to? Shnayim omer leishiv v'echad omer v'shal leishiv. Mosifan olei od shnayim v'nosim no b'davar. Shnayim omer tzricha. 2 say we need to continue. We need to have a shana muberes. Ushlosha omer ein tzricha. The split of the 5 is 3 say no and 2 say yes. Batlu shnayim b'miyutim. You're not changing the year because the majority is saying status quo with the year. Fine. So according to the Mefarish, we don't need our majority of 2. Good. We continue and we cancel everything. Shlosha omer tzricha ushnayim omer ein tzricha. If 3 says yes and 2 say no, so then what? Mosifan alein od shnayim. So then we need an additional 2. She'ein haminyan pachos mishiva, because it can never be less than 7. Fine. By the way, according to that Mefarish logic, what happens if in the last stage, right, you have, what happens if the last stage,
3 and 4.
You have 3 and 4? So that shouldn't work according to him, and the Gemara never says that. Right. So that's another raya against that pshat of the Mefarish. The Gemara should say that by 7 you should continue being moisif if you always need 2 because it's dinei nefashos, and that's not what the Gemara says. Okay. Hani shloisha, so that's the process. The process is we start, we have 3, then we have 5, then we have 7. So come along the Rishonim and they ask the following question. The Gemara's cases are all cases of where there's a split between the 3. What happens if they sit down with the original 3 and it's unanimous? Everyone agrees, this is a crazy year, we need an extra month. Which is probably, most of the times, they said like that. So comes along the Ad Ramah on the Mishnah and he says, what do you mean? That's exactly the way the Mishnah ends off. V'im gamru begimel meuberes. Means, if they didn't need to continue, and everyone was unanimous, and everyone was in agreement, so then we don't need the 5 and 7. But other Rishonim say that that's not the case. It could be b'di'eved if you didn't go through the process of adding more. Maybe the Mishnah is telling you b'di'eved that it's mu'beres. But even, argues most Rishonim, even when you have a unanimous agreement in the first stage, you need to get to 5 and 7. Why should that be? Why should I need to continue if it's unanimous? Why wouldn't you say like the Yad Ramah? The answer is the next Gemara. Because the Gemara explains where the source of this 3, 5, and 7 procedure comes from. The Gemara says, Hani shloisha chamisha v'shiva keneged mi. Pligi bar Rab Yitzchak bar Nachmani v'chad de'imi. Umani Reb Shimon ben Pazi. V'amr la Reb Shimon ben Pazi v'chad de'imi. So there were different opinions, not clear exactly who said what. Someone with him, someone with the other guy, Reb Yitzchak bar Nachmani, and Reb Shimon ben Pazi. Umani Reb Yitzchak bar Nachmani, Chad Amar keneged Birkas Kohanim, v'chad Amar Shlosha keneged Shomrei Asaf, Chamisha meroa pnei HaMelech, Shiva roa pnei HaMelech. So the Gemara says that the different numbers are, Rashi explains, different officers found at different times in Tanakh around the king. Rashi quotes one of the stories as being Achashverosh had seven sarim that were crowding around him. And the Rishonim explain that just like you find by Malchus, that this is the chamber of the king, has these different advisors, the 3 advisors, and then a little lower in the courts, it's the 5 advisors, and then lower than that is the 7 advisors. So too, when it comes to Iber Hashana, we mimic the Malchus the Rakia, Keneged Malchus the Alma, Keneged Malchus the Lamata, and we want to have that same procedure when we're B'ma'aber the Shana, as well. An interesting Gemara. Then the Gemara says, Shiva roa pnei HaMelech, Tana Rav Yosef, Hani Shlosha v'chamisha v'shiva, Shlosha keneged Shomrei Asaf, Chamisha meroa pnei HaMelech, Shiva roa pnei HaMelech. Amalei Abayla Rav Yosef, Ada inna my time lo parish lamar hachi. Why didn't you ever tell me this interesting reason? Lo haviyada detzrechisu. So Rav Yosef answered him, I didn't know that you needed to know this. Mi ba'isa minai milsa v'lo amr lechu. No one ever told me that you wanted to know it, and therefore I never told you. So the Gemara says, one second. I'm sorry, I skipped a line. The first day it says Keneged Birkas Kohanim. What does it mean? The second day was what we just said. The second day it finds throughout Tanakh that the officers of the king, either the Shomrei Asaf or the Sarim of the Melech, they were always in groups of 3, 5, and 7. What's the first opinion? Also a fascinating opinion. If anyone has an interesting pshat in this Gemara, I would love to hear it. The number of words in the Psukim of the Birkas Kohanim. No, but what's the pshat in why Iber Hashana should be Keneged Birkas Kohanim? So that's already a drasha. What the Gemara over here is fascinating. Number one, why it should be Keneged the Malchus. Why is Iber Hashana specifically the Bezdin that goes out of its... yeah, what do you want to say more?
The Malchus, in general, they count the years towards by the king.
Aha. So it's a yearly thing. Interesting. Very good. Very good. So that should be something that should follow the Malchus. But yeah.
Why do we care about Achashverosh?
Good. Excellent question. That's Taisus Kasha. Taisus Kasha in the bottom. Right. Is it really Achashverosh or not? That's Taisus has a debate with Rashi. Good. But the answer is it's Malchus. So we mimic what we're not following their practices, but we're doing something that's similar to the concept of a Malchus. But it's an excellent question, and that's what Tosas disagrees. He thinks there has to be a different source. But why Keneged Birkas Kohanim? 3, 5, and 7, which is the psukim of the Birkas Kohanim. So maybe the Kohen should give a pshat in that also. Yeah. Oh.
So if you're Mashana the Teva, because it's going to be the Geshamim are going to fall a different time of the year than it would have been. So
why is it
you need either you need the bracha pshuta, you need the bracha, or you need the power of the bracha that Hakadosh Baruch Hu is the Samar Shemani Baruch that I will agree with.
Oh, beautiful. So that's what I was looking for. Excellent. So the concept of Birkas Kohanim is a concept like what he was saying, like Abe was saying, is that the Kohanim are mevarach, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is giving his askama, that they're saying the words, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is on top and giving and being maskim. Iber Hashana is exactly that same thing. Iber Hashana is this concept that Bezdin is now totally taking control of time. Bezdin, and the Gemara, we're going to learn further, the Gemara says, even if Bezdin's making a mistake. Atem afilu shoygim, atem azidim, whatever it is, you make this cheshbon. So now in the areas of Kiddush HaChodesh and Ibra Hashana, maybe, but that's going to be something for further, whether or not it applies to Ibra Hashana. But the concept of time is usually assumed to be in the control of Bezdin, and the Rebbeinu Shalom sits there like the Medrash tells us. And if the Bezdin decides not to make Rosh Hashanah at this day, so he tells his Malchus Durakia, he tells the Malachim, I'm closing my books.
So why is it just, so you can...
So Adi wants to know if that's the pshat. So then every Kiddush HaChodesh should need 3, 5, and 7. That's true. It's a good aura, right? That's true, right?
It doesn't affect the seasons.
No, you don't affect the seasons.
Yeah.
You're aligning back with the seasons.
Yeah, but the next
No, but Ibra Hashana is more seasons based.
No, I know, but you are.
So you're saying you need more of Askama when it's changing the Rebbeinu Shalom's teva.
But I don't think you're changing the teva. You just because there's
No,
a difference between the lunar and
We're going to learn that the main source for Ibra Hashana adding a year is Chodesh Aviv.
Yeah,
is
no,
for
but you need to make sure that the
right. You're not changing teva,
Aviv
right?
Is
a aligned
solar
correctly, correct,
event.
right?
And you need to align it, so you're
Right.
not mishanet.
Fine, but that's not the driving force when it comes to making 1 or 2 days Rosh Chodesh. That's what I was saying.
No, okay.
Right. Okay, good. So that's the end of this Gemara. So we have the process of 3, 5, and 7. But the truth is, Rabbosai, is that I think this is the most opportune time, and we're going to learn more about this process, but it would really be not do it justice if we don't really analyze what the Rambam tells us about how Ibra Hashana works, and really how the Rambam is in Mitzvah's essay, Kuf Nun Gimel. Now this alone is a fascinating Rambam, but it's a fascinating machlokes the Rambam and the Ramban. Kuf Nun Gimel. Mitzvah's essay, Kuf Nun Gimel. So the Rambam is introducing all the inyanim that we've been talking about, which is the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh, the Chaj Chadashim, and Shanim. Zui mitzvahs Kiddush HaChodesh. So I'm going to skip a little bit in the Rambam. The Rambam is telling you some of the details that we're going to learn in the Gemara, that it's in Eretz Yisrael specifically. Then the Rambam tells us about halfway down, the first word of the line is V'yosef Chodesh, Aval mitzvah zu, Lo yaseh osa la'olam zulos beis din agadol levad. Rambam tells you that for this mitzvah, I'm in the Rambam mitzvah's essay Kuf Nun Gimel. So I was, the first word on the right is Vayosef. It's about, I would say, 15 lines down.
Everybody's different.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I just didn't want to hear 7 lines.
Yeah. So Aval mitzvah zu lo yaseh osa la'olam zulo beis din agadol levad. So the Rambam says clearly that for this mitzvah you need beis din agadol.
23, 70.
So he doesn't say, but clearly for what we just learned, the Gemara tells us clearly you don't need 70, right? You just need 3, 5, 7, and b'diavad 3 is fine. That's what we just learned. But the Rambam clearly says there's got to be chasheva guys. They got to be members of the beis din agadol, probably. Let's skip to the lower down, which I don't know how we're all going to skip together. Ubezek koshi gadol chazak va'yodea tamid shebeis din agadol amnam hayi beretz Yisrael v'hem yivkebu chadashim v'ya'abru shanim b'fanim ha'mekubalim etzlam kutzam gam kein. So let's skip to the words ubekan shorish gadol. Everyone have that? Listen to this Rambam. This is a Musar Shmuz, this Rambam. Ubekan shorish gadol ma'od misharshei amuna. The Rambam's telling you now, I'm going to tell you in this mitzvah some of the roots of our belief. Lo yedeu v'lo yizbonim b'mkoma ela mi shedaito amuka, and only a person who really can think with depth can really chap this. V'zeh sheyosenu ayom b'chutz la'aretz monim b'melechas ha'ibur shebiyadenu v'omrim shezeh ayom rosh chodesh v'zeh ayom yom tif. Says the Rambam, that which we play charades over here, and like we're playing a game over here, that we make Rosh Chodesh and we say that today's Yontif and we announce the Molad. Lo mipnei cheshbonono nikbu. Don't think that it's anything because of your cheshbon. Don't think it's because of your calculation or because of your little shtick that you're doing in shul. B'shum ponim ela b'pnei shebezdin agadol sheberetz Yisrael kvar kov'u zeh hayom Rosh Chodesh or Yontif. Rather, it's because the Bezdin Hagadol, the great Bezdin in Eretz Yisrael, was the one that enacted that today will be Rosh Chodesh or today will be Yontif. And we're following the Bezdin Hagadol Shabi Eretz Yisrael. Amram shezeh hayom Rosh Chodesh o Yontif, yeh Rosh Chodesh or Yontif, bein shayis pulos and zayis becheshben or beriya. Says the Rambam, and this exists whether or not the old model that they actually accepted the Edom that were Re'iyah, they saw the moon, or if they did it through their own calculation and they were Mekadesh it that way, that is the reason why we have Rosh Chodesh in Chutz La'aretz. Well, that sounds like it would. Let's see. Kemoshe Bava Ferish, Elim Moadei Hashem. The Rambam is talking to himself who's living in Mitzrayim. Kemoshe Baba Ferish Elam Moadei Hashem Asher Tegru Osam Ein Leila Moados Ela Elu Klomer Sheyomru Hem Shemoados Afilu Shogun Afilu Anusim Afilu Mutim Kemoshe Basanu Akabala. He says the Gemara that I just said that Bezdin has the power even if they make a mistake, even if they do it intentionally wrong, they are granted the power to control time. V'anachnu omnam nechshav hayom k'dei sheneda hayom shekavu Hem Ritzon Alomer Bnei Eretz Yisrael Anachnu B'nai Yisrael, Bo Rosh Chodesh, Ki Mebalach Hazos Ba'atzma Monim V'Kovin Yahom Lo B'Re'iyah V'Al Kviyasam Nismoch. The Rambam saying that even Bizman HaZeh, we are following the Kviyas of the Bezdin Hagadol Yisrael. Lo Al Cheshbonenu, not us in Mitzrayim, not on our calculation. Aval Cheshbonenu Hu L'Gluyim Milsa V'Haven Zemaod. And therefore, you should know this. V'Ani Oisif L'Cha Bir. And now I'm going to continue. Listen to the words of the Rambam. This is unbelievable. Adi, listen to this. Ilu efsher derech moshel. If any crazy man would say and suggest to you, Shebnei Eretz Yisrael yedru me Eretz Yisrael, that there would not be Jews living in Eretz Yisrael, chalila le'el me'aso zos. Impossible. It's impossible for there not to be Jews living in Eretz Yisrael. Ki hu iftiach. Shelo yimche osos ha'umo mikol v'kol. V'lo yeh sham bezdin, v'lo yeh b'chutz la'aretz bezdin shenismach ba'aretz, hine cheshbenenu zeh lo yelenu oz klum b'shem ponim. Can't be. Because then what? We're not going to have Rosh Chodesh. We're not going to have Yontif. It's all because of what? It's all because of there are people living in Eretz Yisrael, and that's why we have Rosh Chodesh now. Maybe the Knesset should learn this Rambam on Rosh Chodesh or something. Because what we do in Chutz La'aretz is garnished. Good. The problem is, Rabbi Isai, which is what I think Leo was coming from, is that we don't have a Bezdin Hagadol. So what in the world is the Rambam talking about? In the time of the Rambam, there was no Bezdin Hagadol. And the Rambam just said, you need Bezdin Hagadol. That's the kasha of the Ramban. This whole long hasaga of the Ramban says, I don't understand. Already from 40 years before the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, they were still being Mekadesh the Chodesh, and yet what? They weren't sitting in the Lishkas HaGozis. What is the Lishkas HaGozis, argues the Ramban? The Lishkas HaGozis, that's where the Bezdin Hagadol sat. That's where they paskin. And that's what the Gemara tells us in Avodah Zarah. Dinei Nefashos had to stop already 40 years before the Churban HaMikdash happened. Why? Because if the Bezdin Hagadol is not in their makom, then Dinei Nefashos, even in the lower courts, the 23 Dayanim, can only exist if there's a Supreme Court. And if there's no Supreme Court, so then we can't adjudicate our court. And therefore the Gemara tells us Dinei Nefashos ceased to exist already 40 years before Churban HaMikdash. Yet the Rambam himself tells us in Ilchus Kiddush HaChodesh, I don't have it here, the Rambam himself tells us that they were Mekadesh, the Chodesh, even until Abaye and the Zman of Abaye and Rava. How could those two things exist? There clearly wasn't a Bezdin Hagadol ad Zman HaZeh. So therefore, argues the Ramban, he says he doesn't understand what he's talking about. Where is he coming from? To add to the Ramban's kasha is that in light of everything we're learning, this Gemara about Ibra Hashana, these halachos should be in the last section of our Mishnah, which talks about the halachos of Bezdin Agadol. According to the Rambam, for all these halachos, you need the Bezdin Agadol. You can't just have any dayanim, even smuchim. You need the real McCoy. Maybe you don't need 71 dayanim. Maybe it's enough with 3, 5, and 7. But you got to have people of a certain stature. You got to have people of that last category. Why isn't that said in our Mishnah, according to the Rambam? It's another argument that's very difficult in the Rambam's.
And don't you say, Mitzion, etc., this doesn't have to be in Yerushalayim?
In Yerushalayim.
It has to be in Yerushalayim? It has to be in Yehuda?
That's the Gemara we're going to learn. Yeah, that's the Gemara. That's the Gemara on Yud Aleph Amud Beis. Where is it allowed to be in Eretz Yisrael? Yeah,
Okay.
right, good. But the lechatchila from that pasuk it should be in Yehuda. Yeah. So therefore, the Ramban says the Rambam is absolutely wrong, and that's why the Ramban disagrees with the Rambam, and he says number one, it could be that when there was a Bezdin Agadol, so yeah, the Bezdin Agadol should have done it. Because they're the most appropriate people to take these matters into their hand when they're around. But says the Ramban, there's no Gemara, there's no halacha that ever said that it needs to be Al Yidei Bezdin Agadol. And that's why I have no problem the fact that it existed until Abaya and Rava. And it continued for generations. And the fact that there was Churban HaMikdash and the fact that the Bezdin Agadol left Lishas HaGazeh, says the Ramban, that never bothered me ever in my life. So therefore I have no problem with that.
If that's the case, why would it stop there?
Oh, that's a good question. So the Ramban doesn't do it. But the Ramban also is not the one who brings up that Abaye and Rava. But that's a good question. I don't know. I'm not sure. So how does it work practically according to the Ramban? Lamaisa, what's the process? So Eidim kept on coming in, and they actually received Eidim to be made, and Agadas Eidis al Pi Re'iyah. So says the Ramban, no. So let's look at the end of the Ramban. We just skipped all the Asagas of the Ramban. I pretty much just summed up the Ramban. Any limitation, says the Ramban, is just l'chadchila that you need Bezdin Agadol, but that's not ma'akev, and therefore I have no problem in the Golus with other Rabbanim. And says the Ramban, you read our Gemara, all it said was you need 3, 5, and 7. You don't need anything else. It has nothing to do with the end of the Mishnah. You don't need Bezdin Agadol. So therefore I have no issues. So let's just see. So how does the Ramban practically say? So how is it done Bizman HaZeh? How is Kiddush HaChodesh done Bizman HaZeh? Says the Ramban, I'll explain to you. It's a paragraph that begins V're'isi od behilchos HaKiddush HaChodesh, all the way towards the end of the Ramban. Yeah. Everyone have it? V're'isi oid be'ilchas kiddush ha'chodesh perak hey halacha aleph and beis. So the Ramban says, I'm quoting now what the Rambam paskin in Hilchas Kiddush HaChodesh in his Sefer Yad HaChazaka. She'amar bizman she'ein Sanhedrin be'Eretz Yisrael, ein kovin chadashim ve'ein ma'abrim shadim, ela b'cheshben zeh shanu mechashben ayom, v'davar zeh halacha Moshe Misinai. What did the Rambam just say? Says the Ramban. The Rambam created 2 tracks to having Rosh Chodesh and to be Kovei Zman Bizman HaZeh. Says the Rambam, you had historically Eidis al Pi Kiddush HaRe'iyah. Eidim would walk in and say whether or not they saw the new moon. But Bizman HaZeh, that doesn't exist. So how does it exist? It exists in the Bezdin Agadol Sheberetz Yisrael, that they make a cheshbon. And says the Rambam, and don't think, my congregation in Mitzrayim, that we're actually chashuv, that when we're Makadosh the Chodesh, we're actually doing anything significant. It's not. It's all al pi the Bezdin Agadol Yerushalayim. We have to get back to Leo's question. There is no Bezdin Agadol Yerushalayim. We never answered that question. Says the Ramban, so the Ramban quotes from the Rambam, and this is a halacha l'Moshe Misinai. What's the halacha l'Moshe Misinai? That when you don't have Kiddush al Pi Re'iyah, there's another way to make Rosh Chodesh. What? Calculation, cheshbon, and then they'll be Mekadosh, they'll say Mekadosh, and we'll follow them in Chutz La'aretz. Hu shebizman sheyesh Sanhedrin koven al pi re'iyah, ubizman she'ein Sanhedrin koven becheshbon zeh shanu mechashbon bo hayom. 2 tracks. Bezdin Agadol could either do it through when the Sanhedrin exists through re'iyah, and when there's no classic Sanhedrin, then they're going to do it through a cheshbon. Niskasha lo oda inyan v'shama davar mesoros v'kabbalah v'alachol Moshe Misinai. Mashelo nemer b'Talmud, says the Ramban. Where do you get this one from? I didn't learn such halacha l'Moshe Misinai. This is never brought down in the Gemara, says the Rambam. Says the Ramban. Where did he get this from? That there's a new din called cheshbon? Lo huzker ze b'shum makom v'hu atzmo zatzal hizker sham ki b'mei chachmei ha-mishma v'chein b'mei chachmei ha-talmud ad yimei Abaye v'Rava lo haya b'cheshbon v'al kviyas Eretz Yisrael b're'iyah hayu somchim. So says the Ramban, and you yourself agree that the Kiddush al pi re'iyah existed till when? Till Abaye and Rava. That's, he's quoting from the Rambam right now. So why suddenly did it stop? Did this go? What happened to this new route? And I already asked, says the Ramban, there was no Sanhedrin Gedola after the Churban, so how did it exist then? And if according to the Rambam you need a Bezdin Agadol, then you can't explain Abaye and Rava, because you didn't have a Bezdin Agadol until then. Bezdin he says the Ramban, according to the Rambam, all of our Yom Tovim are null and void. This can't exist, and therefore the Ramban says, skip to the next few lines. In order to heal all of these difficult questions, I'm going to explain to you how Rosh Chodesh works and how Zman works. Bizman HaZeh. Says the Ramban, very simple. Hu Reb Hillel Hanasi, Bno Shel Reb Yehuda Hanasi, Shetiken Cheshben HaIber, Hu Kidesh Chadashim, V'iber Shonim Aru'uyin L'Is'aber, Lefi Minyono, Ad Sheyovo Eliyahu Zal, V'nachzor L'Kidushenu, Al Pi HaRe'iyah Bebezdin, V'beis HaGadol V'HaKadosh, Amen B'Vehera B'Yameinu. Says the Ramban, very simple. At the last inning, when the last time possible, there's one route, it's called Kiddush al pi re'iyah. And again, the Ramban's not bothered by the fact that there's no Bezdin Agadol. Because I never made up such a rule, and I have no idea where my friend the Rambam got this from. So don't ask me about Bezdin Agadol. I read a Gemara in Sanhedrin that says 3, 5, and 7, that says 3. I don't know where this Bezdin Agadol came from. So therefore, the fact that Hillel wasn't part of the Bezdin Agadol doesn't bother the Ramban. But Hillel did Kiddush al pi re'iyah. Says the Ramban, Hillel did Kiddush al pi re'iyah, and he cheshbon based on that. He was now Mekadesh all of the Rosh Chodashim and all of the Yom Tovim until Mashiach Tzidkenu will come. And he did that as like a chalos lachar zman. It's like he did it right now, and it's going to be chal as it comes. But he already set in that all of those should have Kedusha. Says the Ramban, we're going to learn, the Gemara says we should never be ma'aber the Shana before Rosh Hashanah. Right? How could Hillel do it thousands of years before 2017, before Tafshin Ayin Zayin? It's before the Shana. So isn't that against the Gemara? So the Ramban says, yeah, that's lichatchila. But b'diavad it's chal. And that's what we had to do. And there's one route of the way Kiddush HaChodesh works. It's through Re'iyah. There's no halach l'mosh misinai. There's no cheshbon. There's no any other dimension of how it exists. So that's the Ramban's simple equation. All of our Rosh Chodashim, all of our Yom Tovim, all of our days that are holy, that are endowed with Kedusha, through our Kviyas, that doesn't exist. We don't have a Bezdin, we don't have Kiddush al pi re'iyah, says the Ramban, was taken care of by Hillel HaZaken. But the Rambam clearly doesn't hold like that. The Rambam, number one, holds that you need a Sanhedrin. So that's why we have 2 strikes against us for the Rambam. Because we don't have a Sanhedrin, Bizman HaZeh. We don't have a Bezdin Agadol, Bizman HaZeh. And the Ramban asked all these questions, and we added on to the Rambam. Then why isn't these Gemaras in the last section of the Mishnah, which says the halachos that you need Bezdin Agadol? So therefore, in order to answer this, Rav Soloveitchik had a beautiful mahalach, which is one of the most fundamental mahalchim for our entire Masechta. And he explained as follows. There are 2 roles to the Bezdin Agadol. And he proved it with the following Rambam. The Rambam says in Hilchos Malachim, Kol ha'aratzos, the Rambam is talking about conquering and creating lands to be part of Eretz Yisrael. Kol ha'aratzos shekovshin Yisrael b'melech al pi bezdin, harei ze kibush rabim, v'harei Eretz Yisrael, shekibush Yoshua l'chol davar, v'hu shekovsho achar kol Eretz Yisrael amur b'Torah. So the Rambam says that in order to be Eretz Yisrael, so you need a melech, and you also need what? What is the next words after the Rambam? Al pi bezdin. The Rambam there is referring to the Bezdin Agadol. Bezdin Agadol is Sanhedrin, right? In the times of David HaMelech, he had a Sanhedrin there. They would authorize it, and that would create Kedusha. Good. Let's skip to the Rambam in Hilchos Trumas. Eretz Yisrael Amur b'chol makom hi ba'aratza shekivshan Melech Yisrael o Navi midas rov Yisrael v'zeh nikra kibush rabim. What's the problem, Rabbi say? Where's Bezdin? And what did the Rambam add in a new? Navi, that's true. But what did the Rambam also add in a new? That wasn't in the first Rambam in Hilchos Malachim. Das Rov Yisrael. Where did that come from? So number one, where's Bezdin? And where did Das Rov Yisrael come from? Comes along Rav Soloveitchik and he says, I can answer both those kashas in one fell swoop. Bezdin in this type of halacha is not a halacha midin Bezdin. There are certain halachos that we read in the end of the Mishnah at the beginning of Sanhedrin, and we say, to judge a Kohen Gadol, you need Bezdin HaGadol. To make an Irani Dachas, you need Bezdin HaGadol. To do this halacha, you need Egla Roof, you need Bezdin HaGadol. Bezdin HaGadol, Bezdin HaGadol. There's certain halachos that need 23 dayanim, certain halachos that need 3 dayanim, certain halachos that are, wow, that needs the Supreme Court. That needs new judges, that needs 71 dayanim, that needs Bezdin HaGadol. We asked the kasha, according to the Rambam, why isn't Kiddush HaChodesh there? Why isn't Eber Hashana there? You need Bezdin HaGadol. Says Rav Soloveitchik, no, you don't need Bezdin HaGadol. You don't need Bezdin HaGadol, but there is Bezdin. You need Bezdin HaGadol as just a manifestation and a representation of Das Rov Yisrael. And where is Das Rov Yisrael? Where do we represent the opinion and the Hanhaga of Am Yisrael? That's in Eretz Yisrael. That is what Rav Soloveitchik proved from many different halachos. The Rambam Perish Mishnayos and Bechoros, we don't have time to get into. That Klal Yisrael, I'm sorry to break your bubble, but Klal Yisrael, burst your bubble, but Klal Yisrael is dependent on the Jews living in Eretz Yisrael. That's called Klal. And we make cheshbonos of whether or not you should bring a par halam davar. Did the Rov Tzibur do a sin? Did they not do a sin? How do we calculate who's in the Rov Tzibur? It's not people in Chutz La'aretz. Those are all people in Chutz La'aretz are nidon ki yechidim. But when do we decide where the tzibur is? The tzibur is in Eretz Yisrael. So says Rav Soloveitchik, you see that Bezdin HaGadol plays a role as just a group of individuals that represent the Das Ha'am, the representation of the willingness of the nation. And the Tosefta tells us that when it comes to Iber Hashana, it has to be a halacha that's Bahaskamas Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael agrees to this idea, to this implementation. So the only way we can implement, says the Rambam, Haskamas Klal Yisrael, was Bizman the Sanhedrin who were the individuals that represented Am Yisrael? It was the Sanhedrin. But not because they're like an Irani Dachas, and we're judging a Kohen Gadol right now, and this is a halacha that needs the Supreme Court. No, it's just a practicality that right now this is a group of people that represents the Ratzon Ha'am. And the Ratzon Ha'am in Eretz Yisrael are the ones that are Koveya the Chodesh. So Imkain, if the Rav's Pshat is right, so that's not so problematic if certain times, like we're going to see, when they didn't have the Gadol in the Eretz Yisrael, you see Rabbi Akiva, the Gemara in Brachos tells us, was Ma'aber Hashana in Chutz La'aretz. Why? Because he represented the nation. He was clearly the Rav Moshe Feinstein of the Dar. He was the Gadol Ador. There was no one who was going to argue that he was our leader. And even if you don't have necessarily the Bezdin HaGadol, like the Ramban argued on the Rambam in the Zman of Abaye and Rava, what Bezdin HaGadol? Where Bezdin HaGadol? Yeah, but we had leaders of the generation. We had people that were able to represent the das of the Jews living in Eretz Yisrael to be Koveya the Chodesh. So that's the answer of the Rambam. Just like when it comes to Kibush Rabim and creating Eretz Yisrael, it's enough to have the Das Rov Yisrael. So too when it comes to being Koveya the Chodesh, being Ma'aber the Shana, you don't need Mamish Bezdin HaGadol. When Bezdin HaGadol is around, they were the individuals that represented Am Yisrael. When you don't have that option of the Bezdin HaGadol, so then you're going to go to other leaders of the generation that existed in those times that would represent Am Yisrael. But it comes out, going back to Leo's question, according to the Rambam, but that's going to be the case even Bizman HaZeh as well. Today, we keep Rosh Chodesh, like the Rambam says, because, okay, we don't have a Bezdin that's being Mekabel Eidim, we don't have Kabbalas Eidus Al Pia Re'iyah, but what do we have? We do have a mechanism of the Jews in Eretz Yisrael being Koveya that today is Rosh Chodesh, Al Pi Cheshbon, not Al Pi Haggadas Eidos, even though witnesses are not coming in, says the Rambam, there's another track, Halach L'Moshe Sinai, telling me that I could have Rosh Chodesh through a Cheshbon, and as long as the people in Eretz Yisrael that are representing Das Ha'am, that are representing the fact that Am Yisrael is being noeg this, to be Rosh Chodesh, and to be Yontif, and to be all the Yom Tovim, so that's something that exists even Bizman HaZeh. That's something that we, says the Rambam, in Mitzrayim, or in Fairlawn, are not the real players over here, but the people in Eretz Yisrael are now making that cheshbon, and based on that cheshbon, we are now nikba, and we are setting it to be Rosh Chodesh based on them. So it's not that you need mamish bezdin agadol, but you need something to represent that Am Yisrael is being maskim to this idea, and therefore it could exist even in the Zman of the Baya Rava, and it could even exist through the other track of cheshbon without Haggadas Eidos, even Bizman HaZeh, and therefore it's Rosh Chodesh, even Bizman HaZeh.
Actionable, meaning do they have to do it's passive or active? Do they have to get together?
I think,
or the
yes.
fact that they are there.
No. The fact that they are now davening Musaf, they are saying Yalav Yavo.
Okay.
The Rav explained, based on this idea, Rav Shechter writes this beautifully in Eretz Tzvi, he said the Rav explained, based on this, we can understand the Gemara Kipshuto. The Gemara says, we spoke about it last week, if you forget Yalav Yavo at Mariv, the Gemara says you shouldn't repeat it, right? We discussed last week the Machlokes the Or Sameach, whether or not the second night is different. But what the Pashup shot, right, at least for the first night according to everyone, and we pass even the second night, if you forget Yalav Yavo at night, you don't repeat Rosh Chodesh, Yalav Yavo. Why? What does the Gemara say? Very interesting reason. Because of what? Ein Mekachnes HaChodesh Balayla. What does that have to do with Bizman HaZeh? So we always read the Gemara, Ein Mekachnes HaChodesh, because that's what originally it was, historically. Ein Mekachnes, says the Rav, no. There's actually a Kiddush HaChodesh. Where is there a Kiddush HaChodesh? In Eretz Yisrael. And we can only daven Shachris Rosh Chodesh morning because the Jews in Eretz Yisrael were already knowing it to be Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, what?
The problem in China.
In China, you have a lot of problems in China. Why? Because it's built before. But in China, China's
anything east of.
yeah. So I'm saying HaZeh Ish might help you because HaZeh Ish holds the date line. You're gonna have some window, right? Depends. Right. Australia will hit the HaZeh Ish in some areas. Yeah, in China
Where's the line? Where's the
HaZeh Ish holds it through Korea. 90 degrees east of Yerushalayim.
Okay.
Which cuts through Australia and cuts through.
But still, you have.
You have all that area. Yeah.
According to this, throughout history, there was a rove, could have been a very small rove, but there was a rove in Eretz Yisrael, could have been 10 Jews.
Yeah.
And among them
there was always Jews. That's what the Rambam says. There had to be Jews in Eretz Yisrael, otherwise we wouldn't have Yontif.
there had to be a Talmid Chacham who would agree to the Kriyas HaChodesh.
Right. So so that's a good question. So the Rav never gets into the stature of those individuals. Like, let's say I would say, I don't hold by those Rabbanim, Bizman, let's say I don't hold that they're the leaders. But the point is that the people in Chutz La'aretz are not considered based on, so they're automatically the people that represent, and Baruch Hashem, they all have the same hanhaga in terms of, so automatically that's going to be.
But you can see very simply that the Jews in Israel in the year 575 are following what the Jews in Bavel are doing. So they have the Ratzon of what the Rosh Galusa wants.
Right.
This is back and forth. So it's really my.
That's what I'm saying. There were certain times in Jewish history, like the Gemara talks about in Rabbi Akiva, that he is actually Ma'aber Zashan in Chutz La'aretz. Why? Because there was no question he was the leader. So when it's hands down, he's the leader. So that's what the Rav's saying. It's not halacha dafkin Eretz Yisrael. It's not halacha dafkin Bezdin Agadol. And there's no issues that I have to deal with about makum gorim, about the lishkas hagazis, about dinei nefashos. The fact that that's not what it means. It means that you need someone to represent the Das Ha'am, and the Jews in Eretz Yisrael right now represent that, and that's why we have Rosh Chodesh Bizman HaZeh. And this Yisod Rabosai will answer many, many different questions that are regarding, we should keep this yisod in mind. It's going to come up in the future sugyas of Mitzvah Hashem through the rest of the first parak about different elements of the Bezdin Agadol when they play different roles. They're not acting as a Bezdin of adjudication, but rather they're acting as a Bezdin to represent the Das Ha'am like they do in Hilchos Trumas. Shkaya.